सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Before we begin, I'd like to make an appeal to you. For those who haven't already, I request you to take membership of ThePrint's YouTube channel, which costs only 159 rupees per month. Click on the join button to enjoy exclusive member benefits, including loyalty badges, priority responses, and member-only videos. We are now also extending newsletters for all our YouTube members. For this, I request all YouTube members to write to us with their full name and email address at members@theprint.in, and we'll get back to you. Looking up the billowing petticoats of the Princess Dowager with a telescope, a courtier shouts out, "I see the road to preferment, well fenced and watered." "There's the road through bushy park," says another looking upwards, the pun alluding to the Royal Park in Bushley at London and to the genitals of the mother of King George III. "I love power," the princess cries out as she rides a broomstick. "Let us make the most of this," responds her court favourite, the Prime Minister and 3rd Earl of Bute, John Stuart. We're above the vulgar. For politicians in Pakistan, the world of 18th century English popular politics might seem strangely familiar. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan has claimed the government's plotting to defame him with fake Gandhi videos. The elderly Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz leader Parvez Rashid was targeted through a purportedly leaked video in which the party vice president is seen recording online sex. And the Senator Azam Khan Swati has revealed he was blackmailed with a secretly filmed explicit video. Lewd, unashamedly sexist and politically incendiary, the pamphlet about the princess, which is now housed in the British Museum, was part of a war against the court being waged by the radical and unscrupulous politician John Wilkes. Lord Bute had been handpicked by the crown to end the power of landed oligarchs, and Wilkes hit back with a savage campaign of sexual rumor and innuendo. Tempting as it is to see the leaked videos in Pakistan as just one more element in the no-holds-barred power struggle among the country's political elite, the sexual scandals have a special significance, just as it had in the time of George III. In all regimes built around theological claims, morals have a special place in securing leadership legitimacy. Like armored vehicles and Kalashnikovs, shame is also a weapon. The Constitution of the Islamic Republic, forged in the sweltering Karachi heat of August 1953, ceded sovereignty to God, mandating that no laws repugnant to the Quran and the Hadith be passed. Exactly what that meant was not quite clear. But in a country awash with refugees, torn by food riots and battered by clerical protests, it was clear that some kind of fundamental reordering of the political system was needed. Figures like Khwaja Nazimuddin, scholar Ardat Burke's records, conceded clerics a central role in political life. Elites excluded themselves from this new Pakistan, and the transformation of ordinary people's culture was also pretty languid. Liquor advertisements, commentator Nadeem Paracha writes, figured in newspaper pages and even on the streets until late in the 1960s. First-class passengers on Pakistan International Airlines were offered complimentary cocktails, and women gathered at Karachi bars until at least 1973. An anti-elite moralism had, however, begun to gain power. In 1972, the National Awami Party Jamiat Ulama Islam government, an alliance of socialists on the one hand and Islamists on the other, which ruled what is now called Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, proscribed the sale of alcohol. The crisis had begun to develop in the wake of the 1971 war, as some Islamists argued that defeat to India was the result of moral degradation. The Hamoud-ur-Rahman Commission, which investigated the defeat, claimed the army leadership had been hollowed out by, and I quote, highly immoral and licentious ways of life. Lieutenant General Amir Khan Niazi, the commission claimed, was on intimate terms with one Mrs. Saida Bukhari of Gulbarg, Lahore, who was running a brothel under the name of Senorita Home and was also acting as the general's tout for receiving bribes. The general was also said to be friendly with another woman called Shamima Firdaus of Ziaulhaq. He came to acquire a stinking reputation, the commission said, owing to his association with women of bad repute. Aqleem Akhtar, a former police officer's wife and mother of 6, who became a Lahore high society madam, was blamed for the alcohol-fueled debaucheries of Chief Martial Law Administrator General Yahya Khan. The general's lifestyle, the argument went, led on to the catastrophe of 1971. So, of course, loose women were to blame for the disaster. The Pakistan Army's failures of military competence and its poor judgments in the East were transformed into moral questions. Even though Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's government resisted calls to ban alcohol after the war, I drink but I do not drink the blood of people, he famously proclaimed at a 1977 rally, the rising moral tide proved difficult to resist. Islamists use photographs of First Lady Nusrat Bhutto dancing with United States President Gerald Ford, clad, I should add, in an eminently respectable, beautiful gown, to launch a smear campaign against the Prime Minister. Bhutto is a Hindu, Bhutto is a Jew, crowds of Islamists in Lahore and Karachi chanted. Liquor had to be expelled from Pakistan Army messes in 1974, though it remained available at bars, nightclubs and coffee houses. The rise of the religious right-wing Pakistan National Alliance in 1977, though, saw large-scale attacks on establishments serving alcohol. In a bid to appease the religious right, Prime Minister Bhutto banned bars and liquor stores and prohibited gambling. But it was just too late. General Ziaulhaq, who took power in a military coup that year, enforced the ban with enthusiasm, among other things, instituting punishment of 80 lashes for violators. The general's moral qualms did not extend to opium production, interestingly, which he encouraged insurgents in Afghanistan to engage in as a means to raise funds for jihad. The weapon of the moral scandal would continue to be wielded regularly in Pakistani politics. Former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif is alleged to have used allegations by a former dancer and sex worker, Madam Tahira, to neuter his most prominent opponent, the Islamist Maulana Ziaulhaq, whose seminary at Akora Khatak, by the way, produced much of the leadership of the Taliban. Lurid accounts of Tahira's testimony included claims she had arranged threesomes for the cleric, which led to his being described as Maulana Sandwich. I'll leave the details to your imagination. I have been placed in a highly embarrassing position, Ziaulhaq would say in a resignation statement. The country's religious forces consider me their soldier who is fighting for the supremacy of the Sharia. Of course, he couldn't stay on. Fake pictures of Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto and her mother were showered from helicopters ahead of the 1993 elections, and really ugly rumors spread about her personal life. The sex scandal has been regularly then used as a kind of stiletto-knife of politics in contemporary Pakistan. The swirl of sexual misconduct allegations around Imran Khan, graphically described by his former wife Riham Khan, undermined his efforts to build a political career for years. TikTok star Harim Shah dealt a sharp blow to Railways Minister Sheikh Rashid's career with a leaked video in 2020. Allegations of sexual misconduct also helped cut the ground from under Prime Minister Yusuf Raza Gilani. Little imagination is needed to see why sleaze is such an effective weapon. Ever since its independence, Pakistani politics has increasingly centered on competitive religiosity and displays of personal piety rather than debate around public policy and programs. For For Americans, with a political culture suffused in Christian value, the role of the sexual scandal will be familiar. As sociologist Joshua Gamson notes, the point of sex scandals isn't actually the sex. The issue is the transgression of moral codes and order that power claims to uphold. Less religious societies, of course, also adore gossip, but it rarely has the same political lethality. The often malicious rumours swirling around Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's sex life and Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's unconventional relationship with Rajkumari Kaul had no impact on their political authority or influence. Even less consequence attached to the relationship between Chief Ministers M.G. Ramachandran and J. Jayalalitha, or a string of pretty well-known similar political romances. Famously post-religious France barely pays attention to the personal lives of politicians, and changing values in the United Kingdom mean it hasn't had a genuine sex scandal since the Christine Keeler case, decades ago. Lethal consequences, though, have often flown from moral campaigns in religious societies. King Henry VIII of France was assassinated by the monk Jacques Clement in 1589 amid rumours of the monarch's homosexuality. London crowds in the 18th century, the historian Anna Clements writes, were all too accustomed to amuse themselves by stoning men accused of sodomy in the pillory. Wilkes weaponized these prejudices, casting the court of George III as effeminate. This moment of crisis in Pakistan ought to have been a time where people reflected on the values of the Islamic Republic. Instead, by exposing each other as hypocrites, Pakistan's political leaders are setting the stage for the rise of a genuine Puritan, a religious tyrant who is indeed willing to preach what he practices. I'm Praveen Swami and I'm National Security Editor of ThePrint. Thank you for listening to Security.